In this nugget, we'll be taking a look at how to configure private CA, okay, a public certificate from a private CA like your own in-house certification authority, or a self-signed certificate. And that would be using the Make Cert utility, which is part of a development kit I'll show you here coming up. Anyway, once I've got my certificate, that's what's going to be used to register the server. Okay, REG is what that's supposed to be. But it registers the server with Azure. And once that's been done, then it kind of has permission, so to speak, to proceed through the process of creating backup jobs to the Azure server. And then I quickly dragged my browser over here because before I create the certificate, I want to show you some other things here. First of all, if you're doing a self-signed certificate as opposed to a public or internal CA, then you want to get the Windows SDK for Windows 8.1 or whatever the current version is at the time of your viewing this. Then you just click Download Now, and once you download it, you don't need to install all the components of it. It's actually kind of a lot there. All you really absolutely have to have is the Windows Software Development Kit. Okay, and that will include Make Cert, which is what we're going to be using here. here, dir star.cer. It'll create the certificate in the same directory where we run the command. That's kind of an inconvenient location, so I'll probably put that somewhere else, and then we'll be able to work here and upload it and manage that certificate from this point. So let's take a look at where I put that certificate. I just moved it over here to my search directory. If I double click on it, we can see some information about it. First of all, there's the red X there, only indicating that it's not necessarily trusted. Because it's a self-signed certificate. It's trusted by this computer, and if I tell Azure to trust it, it will as well. But you can see that here the path goes back to itself. Also, you'll notice here that under the details, it gives us some of the pertinent information as well, some of which we specified. For example, 2048 bits was included, client authentication, things like this. I can also then install the certificate. I don't really need to do that here, but let me show you what goes on. Here is the original server. Okay, that's this server right now, DC Nugget 1. I'll just put DC1 right here. That's where I created this certificate that we're looking at. And that's going to back up to Azure over here. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to have another server that was also backing up to Azure? Well, I don't have to create a separate certificate. I can use the same certificate, okay, right here. I can use that same certificate and copy that to that server, okay, server 1, whatever. Now this will include the private key, okay. The certificate that I'm sending to Azure, which I'll do in the web page here in a moment, that only needs to have the public key. In fact, you don't want to send the private key over there. So just be aware of that. Also going here to the certificates console, which you can add by using add remove snap in here in a console, we see that we have the Azure certificate already installed here. Notice that it also tells us in this view that it also has the private key included there. Now, one thing I want to do with this, by the way, I just noticed there's an NVIDIA game stream certificate that I just uploaded. So these are not possible until you do have the certificate up there. So I'll download the Vault credentials. It's going to give me a prompt here to download those. So I'm going to go ahead and save those. And then I'll open the folder here. And it looks like it downloaded them to my downloads. Okay, and here's some from another time that I was using. So I'll just go ahead and delete these so that there's no confusion. Oh, it's from a demo for a different class. But anyway, so now we've got this. And these are what's going to be used when I register this local server using this credential, which was generated with certificate. And we'll continue on through here, and we'll see how that all works. Now, the next thing I would need to do once you go through the wizard to install this, then you would see at the end of that wizard that there's an option to register the server. In this case, I don't have a backup vault anymore because it's all been deleted, so I'm going to go ahead and register this server. Okay. Once I do this, I'm going to just specify whether or not I have a proxy, and I'll click Next. I'm looking for the vault credentials, which I just showed you in the Or is it? I'm in the wrong place. In the downloads, there it is. In the downloads right here. Okay, so I'll open that up. And then now it seems to have taken. Okay, everything's just fine. If you see this, you're in good shape. All right. So then I'll just click on next. What you need or you can't do a system state backup, those sorts of things. But I'm just going to click continue on through here and click on add items, and I'll just choose what it is that I'm trying to back up. I'm just going to make it simple and fast, so I'll just choose these critical files again and click OK. Then I'll click on next, and I specify the retention range in days. 120 days is what's there by default, but of course you can increase that or decrease that as it applies to how much you want to pay for the storage. Microsoft is very generous with this, provided we pay them. So the synchronization frequency, you can see that as well. This all pretty well explains itself. I think you can make sense of all of that. So you just choose whenever you want to back it up, and you can do it every day if you want to or whatever. And then you just simply click Next. By the way, here it says they give us 1,700 gigabytes per volume of data that can be backed up in a backup operation. That's increased. I think before it was 750 or maybe it was 850 megabytes. Gigabytes, excuse me, 750 or 850 gigabytes. So that's quite an increase now. And again, they're very generous with that space that we pay for. So now we'll go ahead and let the backup schedule complete. And it looks like it's completed now, so we'll close that. And then what you could do also is to just back up now. I'm going to go ahead and do that and click on be aware of the fact that this is a possibility for you and it is available. But I'm going to go ahead and back this up, and then when it's done, we'll test out the restore as well. All right, when the job completes, we get a notification here, and let's take a look at this file. Okay, so this Office Pool file, I'm really not too keen on this again. So I'm going to try to delete it again, and hopefully nobody will notice. But what do you know? Somebody does. So now they're going to come back into here, and they'll say recover data. They say, we're not going to let James out of this bet. So we click on the server, we click on next. You can browse for files, or look at this, search for files. That's something we don't even have with Windows then of course I have an article here for you as well, a URL. And so you'll just go to technet.com at this URL to find these Azure Online Backup commandlets. Similar to the other ones I showed you, all you have to do is to click on them to view more information about them, and you're there. And then back here in Microsoft Azure, I can go to the dashboard here and get some more pertinent information. You don't really administer much from here. You really kind of just get information about what's there. So it tells me what the protected items are, which servers are registered, and stuff like that. But again, I'll use the console for most of the actual backup process. Been made. So now let's say, hopefully I can get away with this, but somebody else comes into this document. They say, hey, wait a minute, James, that smart aleck, thinks he can change the bet. I'm going to right-click on this and go back to the previous versions. Now I can get there either by clicking right here or clicking on Properties. They really give us both the option to click Previous Versions right here. So then they'll say, finally. We'll get to this and we'll restore the previous version that we know is right. You can open this too if you want to, and it will show you the way it looked previously. And I'll say, yep, that's the one I want. Which is very useful for checking versions. You can also create a copy of this, and then I'll save it to an alternate location if you want to. And then I'll just going to click on And so now I've resized the shadow copy storage association. So that's just an example of the kind of stuff you could do. Let's see, other things you could do would be to list, like say, VSS admin, and then I could list writers. How about that? Writers. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to show me all of the various types of Windows functions and services and so on that need to use volume shadow copy service. For example, Active Directory's in here somewhere. Did I pass it? I think there. And manage backups, particularly with Microsoft Azure and VSS Admin, which is part of the previous versions tab that you see when you can restore previous versions of a file. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.